So what I'm going to talk about is the economics of the transition to electric vehicles, but I'm not necessarily talking about somebody going out and just for the heck of it buying an electric vehicle. Most people that will buy one of these vehicles is already in the market to buy a vehicle. Electric vehicles is an option out there. So some of the costs associated with this are the current range for a commercially available EV is about $35,000 to $100,000 plus for a vehicle. It's a very large pill for people to swallow. Higher level electric vehicle supply equipment may be also required for charging that vehicle. They all will come with what's called a level 1 EVSE. You keep it in the trunk. It will charge a vehicle very adequately, but it will take more time. Some people will be looking at higher levels of charging. So the big question comes in is when will the EV pay for itself? What is the true ROI? This is not something that is applied to other vehicles that people buy, but because this is a green technology or this is, people look at renewable technologies, they have to fall into this whole new category of when will this investment pay for itself. This is on the costs because it is required, but I really think this slide here as being a benefit for going to electric. Driving habits will have to be evaluated and or altered to accommodate the range. We should all be looking at all of our driving habits. We should be looking at how we use these vehicles. Energy conservation should always come before any other form of renewable energy. Going to an electric vehicle, you should look at how you use that vehicle. Carpooling is a more effective way for green transportation. So looking at the financial benefits, and I'm not going to cover the environmental benefits, even though they are economic as well, but that's a whole other presentation that would take a lot longer. So currently, we do have a $7,500 federal tax incentive available for people who purchase EVs. That is limited by the battery size. It has to be at least a 16 kilowatt hour battery to get that amount. A hybrid that has a smaller battery, a $2,500 incentive applies to that. There's a reason why the Chevy Volt has a 16 kilowatt hour battery. They wanted to maximize the incentive to the customers and sell more of their vehicles. Some states additionally have their own incentive programs, and I have a resource at the end of this where you can find the incentives for your state. Those incentives can be rebates off the purchase price, EVSE installation rebates or credits towards that, reduced or exclusion from registration fees, and probably the one that is the most valuable in certain markets is access to the carpool lane. A lot of people in the Washington, D.C. area or the Los Angeles area, they look at this as the best benefit economically for buying an EV because they can cut or sometimes hours off of their commute times, and time is valuable. It's valuable to all of us. So, in my research, I came across, and also I didn't mention that, reduced maintenance costs as well, less moving parts. So I came across the Ford Focus. Ford Focus currently has a standard version. It's about $18,000 base price. Options added to that will increase that cost. It has a pretty good fuel economy, not the best on the market, but it's on the higher end. EPA combined verified at 33 miles per gallon, and an estimated annual fuel cost of about $1,700. That is based on $3.75 per gallon of gasoline. Depending on your market, it may already have increased that or gone beyond that. In some cases, you may be under, but we all know that these fuel costs will increase over time. $5 fuel, even though it didn't happen this year like everyone said, it is coming. But Ford also has another focus on the market. Not every market yet. They have an electric version, 100%, a battery electric vehicle, a BEV, 100% electric version of the same vehicle. Much higher sticker price here. We're looking at about $40,000. Its MPG is actually, it's not on this slide, it's MPGE. It is the miles per gallon equivalent because they're using a different fuel source. 110 for city driving and 99 for highway driving. EPA combined of 105. Much different than their standard version of the vehicle. The estimated annual fuel cost of being $600. That's based on 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Depending on your market, that could vary there. It has a battery that is 23 kilowatt hours, so the entire federal tax credit or incentive does apply, and it has a 76-mile range per charge. So now this gives us the opportunity to look at EV as an option, as opposed to just diving right in and buying the vehicle. So I have a table here, if I can get it to go, and it should have come line by line, but we'll have to work with this here. So what we have here is the MSRP of the standard Focus and also the EV. Underneath here would be the cost of that option. We're looking at about a $20,000 adder to go with the EV option over the standard version. But if you take into account the federal tax incentive, you knock $7,500 off of that, bringing you down to $13,400. And I personally live in Illinois. There's other incentives in other states, but I can knock off an additional $4,000 in Illinois, bring it down to about $9,400. So, simple ROI based on fuel economy alone. Here we see, again, that $1,700 and the $600. That's based, again, on $3.75 fuel or gasoline and 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Without any incentives, you're looking at 19 years for this vehicle to pay for itself. With the federal income tax credit added, it brings it down to 12 years, a little over 12, and about 8.5 years if you have a state incentive that equals what Illinois is. We can look at that again by putting gasoline at $5 a gallon, which is we're very likely to see that, if not more than that, within the life cycle of these vehicles. We can bring that down to 12.25 with no incentives at all, with the federal 8 years and with the state in Illinois 5 years. Starting to get a lot more or closer to what people look for when they look at return on investment numbers. Then I have another scenario here, which say fuel stays at $3.75, but time of use billing is available. Time of use billing has a different rate for your energy consumption depending on the time of use. If you charge at night off the peak demand time, your rate goes down considerably. 4 cents per kilowatt hour is a nationwide average for time of use billing after 10 p.m. So I looked at that. I compared $3.75 per gallon to 4 cents per kilowatt hour charging. At this point, 14 years to pay for itself with no incentives, 9 years with the federal, 6 years with the Illinois added to it. But really, the best option here is if you can combine those. Because if you have time use billing, either as a pilot program or currently available to everyone, we know gas is going to go to 5. So we could look at those combined. And with those both in place, even with no incentives, 10 years, that option, that $20,000 will pay for itself. 6.5 years with the federal incentive, and down to 4.5 if you live in the Illinois market or have a comparable incentive program. So we have some other factors that come into play. EVs do not require an oil change every 5,000 miles, roughly a $50 per oil change savings there. About $150 a year. The biggest thing here is that the savings do not stop when the return on investment has been reached. And everyone wants to know what that year to payback is, but to get there, you're saving to get there. That savings will continue after that fact, and we really need to emphasize that in all these technologies. So, given the Illinois example that I went over, $5 of gas and nighttime charging at 4 cents, the ROI on the entire vehicle, that's the entire vehicle, that is the $40,000 price tag, is a little over 13 years. Taking into account oil changes, it comes down to about 12.25. We could also take into account there's no exhaust systems, so there's no oxygen sensors, there's no other components that go bad that have to be replaced, bringing it down even further. And the big question here is, when will the standard version pay for itself? We always apply these stringent rules to green or renewable technologies that we do not apply to everything else, and that has to change. So calculating the future as well. No battery lasts forever. It's going to be the weak point. In a lot of cases, it's the weak point with renewable energy systems. Ford's battery is warranted for 8 years or 100,000 miles. But the other issue here is battery packs will have an aftermarket value. The batteries are replaced when 80% of their capacity still remains in that battery. They're considered no longer viable for an EV. But 80% of its original rated capacity has many other applications that can then be used for renewable energy systems. It can be used for facility-based energy storage. There's going to be an aftermarket value of these batteries. It won't be able to be quantified until we have a lot of these on the market, but that will affect the dynamics and the overall return on investment. The other thing here is that battery technology will continue to evolve. 8 years when your battery warranty is up and you're at a point where it does have to be replaced, that doesn't mean it has to be replaced at 8 years. That just means the warranty is expired at that point. Most likely, if we look at other technologies as examples, we can expect these batteries to be less expensive than they currently are, economies of scale. There'll be more in production. They'll likely have more capacity, and they'll likely be lighter. All of those will equal longer range, which then changes the dynamics as well because you're getting more out of that charge. And then I have a few resources that I cited here. If you'd like a copy of the slideshow, I'll email it to you. My email's at the end. But if you're looking for EV incentives, check out Plug in America. They're an excellent resource for the EV market. They have all the incentives for every state broken down. The EPA vehicle comparison, you can look at the fuel economies of all vehicles on the road, either gasoline, diesel, or EVs. Get some information from Ford. And then gasoline inflation figures are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And thank you very much.